Hi, welcome to our podcast, Real Talk with Marty Rodriguez.
And my co-host, Isai de la Puente.
Hey, today we're going to talk about inheriting property and the impacts of it. We're also going to touch on trust, probate, and how Prop 19 also affects inheriting property as well. And how holding title can also have tax implications as well when you inherit a property. So Marty, this topic was brought on because you've been receiving quite a few calls, right, about this?
Yes, I've had a couple of my clients call me. In fact, last week, a client called me and says, Marty, my dad is dying, she said, and I want to put the property in my name. I'm the power of attorney. And I said, no, you don't. I said, you want to put it in a trust first, because if you put your name on it and you decide to sell it, you are going to pay taxes because you're going to inherit what's called your dad's bases. What that means is if your dad paid $50,000 for this property and maybe he spent $50,000, so you've got now a basis of $100,000 and it's worth $500, then you're going to have a gain of $400,000. I said, so you don't want to do that. You want to inherit it when he passes. So I said, is he coherent? Can we do a trust? I have an attorney that will go to the house. She said, no, he's not coherent. So I put the attorney on the line with her, and he said, nope, just wait till he dies. And then when he dies, you'll inherit it through the probate, and you won't have to pay any taxes on the sale should you decide to sell the property. So this is why it's really important. And then I had another client last year called me, and she told me, my father-in-law's dying. I want to put my husband's name on the property. Again, I told her, no, you don't. I go, is he coherent? She said, yes. I said, then let's put it in the trust before he passes. So we put the property into the trust, and now should he decide to sell the property, he can sell it with no taxes up to the value of the day that he died is what he gets to inherit as what's called his new basis. So let's say the dad bought it for 50, he's got basis of 100, but now it's worth 500. He gets to inherit the 500,000. Yeah. If the property increases in value from the 500, then only that little bit is taxable. Yeah. So I hope that we're getting clear on this, but I know we'll hopefully be able to answer some of these questions at a later date. But again, don't be deeding properties back and forth without asking a professional, an expert, an attorney, probate attorney, trust attorney, and I know there's only a few real estate agents that really know a lot of that part of the law as well.
I think what's really important, I think, about what you just said right now is that there can be implications if it's not done the right way, right? So like you said, Correct. You really want to ask the right people, ask the questions to the right people, ask an agent, ask your CPA. I mean, we're going to go over a few things, and we're going to go over what you actually just said as well in more detail as well.
Well, because I've also had parents. Oh, I put my kids on title. Why did you put your kids on title? Yeah. Okay. If you want to leave the property to your kids, put it in the trust and leave it to them when you pass, so they inherit it with zero tax on the date of death. Yeah. Okay. So don't be deeding property back and forth without asking a professional how you should handle this. For an example, there was a property, and I had spoke to this woman for at least 10 years, and she had a daughter who was not well. And next thing I know, she died, the daughter died. She had put the son on title before she died. So when he sold the property, he had to pay $135,000 in taxes to the IRS. So this is why you don't deed before you die, okay?
Yeah, you want to protect your assets, and that's basically what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes.
In more detail. I want to ask you, first off, is there a limit to how much you can inherit without there being tax implications? Or, is there a limit?
Yes.
Are there limits?
Yes. According to the taxes, you can inherit $13.61 million from your parents. That is not taxable. Okay. Yeah. So, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And, you won't have any tax if you transfer it properly to your children.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really important.
And that's for an individual.
That's for an individual.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, $13.61 million you can inherit with no taxes.
Got it.
Okay.
Now, so obviously you touched on this already, but if we can go into a little bit more detail, so does the when somebody, well, let me ask you this question. There's limits. So does this mean that if somebody inherits less than that limit, are there tax implications? And I think you already answered that. There can be, based on how you.
No, if they inherit less than that, there's no tax implications. They can inherit up to 13.61 million with no tax implications.
Yeah, but if they, for example, like the examples that you used, where if they add somebody on title just before they sell it, or anything, then there can be tax implications.
But remember, at that point, they're not inheriting the property anymore. The parents gave it to them before they passed.
Yes, that's
okay,
correct.
so now it's not inheritance.
I see what you're saying.
It no longer becomes an inheritance because they're already on title. Yeah, and I've sold properties and I've asked the parents, why did you put your kids on title? I said, because, you've got tax benefits and now you're creating a tax liability. So I've gone back and said, take the kids off. They don't belong here. Just take them off. This property belongs to you and your husband. And that's how we're going to sell the property. And again, and I have them confirm that with their, with their attorney or their tax person to confirm that what I've said is correct. Okay.
Yeah.
So, because I don't want them to have a tax implication, because a lot of agents don't know this and they're going to sell it and create a tax implication. Then the people are going to come back later to you and said, God, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
Even though it's not my job, it is my job because I'm aware of it. I know it. It's my job to protect my clients.
Well, it's like we've said in previous podcasts, right? As a real estate agent, we're the quarterback.
We're the quarterback. So, that's right.
Yeah. And so are there, so does a tax implication differ based on how title is held?
No.
Or no?
No. It doesn't matter how your parents hold a title. It's how they, how you inherit the property.
How you inherit the property
yes,
is what matters.
Either through probate or through the trust, so that you inherit the property with the value of the date of death. So zero taxes to the IRS.
So if title is held, say, under joint tenants in common, or a trust, there's no difference as far as tax implications once they inherit it. So if title is held under in a trust or joint tenants or tenants in common.
Yeah, that's not gonna matter.
It's not gonna matter.
No, it's just a matter is is it in the trust or does it have to be probated? So either way, they're going to be fine.
And if it's held in a trust, that's how you can avoid probate.
Exactly.
Right?
And what's nice, that's why you want to put it in a trust, because when you put it in a trust, now you don't have to probate it. The day that for example, the day that I pass, my kids already have my trust. They can sell the properties, the next day. It already says how to distribute, everything that I own. So there's no question. I've already done that before, before I die. And that's what I think everyone should do, is know who's going to get your property. Because if you don't do that, then let's say maybe you don't want it to go through the chain of title to this child, to this person, to this person. If you say in the trust, no, I want to give it to somebody else, then it goes according to that trust. But if you don't do that and it goes to probate, then it has to go through the, the state required chain of title to those individuals.
Got it.
Okay.
So I guess let's talk about what's a probate.
Well, a probate is when you die and you don't have a trust. So remember, in a trust, you can sell the next day. If you have to probate it, now you've got to find out who all the heirs are if there's not a will, okay? But even if you have a will, you're going to probate the will. And if you don't have a will, then you've got to find out who all the heirs are. And, sometimes there's people that, could have kids that they didn't even know about, because you've got to notify everybody because everybody has a right to that property at that point.
Got it.
So again, when you have a probate, is because you didn't have because you didn't have a trust, basically. because you still have to probate the will as well if it's not into a trust.
So again, the one way to avoid the probate is put it under a trust,
Right?
where
Yep.
you have full control of who inherits the property, what percentage goes to who, and all that.
Yes, and when you're in full control, because you're like, you know what you want to do, you know who you want to inherit your property, and everything is written out, whether it's equally a percentage, and or you want to leave somebody out, you can do whatever you want to do because it's your property and it's your trust.
Okay. So, and again, just to repeat what you're saying, don't add somebody on title, right? Don't add somebody on title necessarily. Your children on title
before you pass.
Before you pass, because they're not going to inherit the property. They're going to add them on title, and they're going to get hit with a tax bill.
A tax bill, because now they're inheriting your basis, which is with the low value that you bought it for. Yeah. So put it in a trust, and they will inherit it when you pass. And then that's the best thing to do for the children.
And going back to probate, does a probate affect the sale of the house?
Not really. The main thing is that if you're going to do a probate, make sure that you hire a probate trust attorney, an attorney that knows what they're doing. I had a client one time. She goes, "Well, my cousin is an attorney, so he's going to do the trust for me." Well, he did the trust and he didn't do it right, so we ended up still having to probate the property. So always get a specialist. If you're getting divorced, you want a divorce attorney. If you're getting, if you want, a trust conservatorship probate, then you want, a trust probate conservatorship specialist. So no matter what kind of law, today everybody wants a specialist in whatever type of law that they're dealing with. So yeah. So I think that's really important.
Okay. Now, as far as the proceeds, though, of the sale, right, that can be delayed.
Yes.
In a probate, right?
Yes, because people say, "Oh, the probate's going to take longer." If you have a good attorney, the probate's not going to take longer. Usually, what's going to take longer is the distribution of the money, because they have to contact all the creditors as well. So you have to wait till everybody gets paid before the beneficiaries can receive their money. So that's the only thing that would take a little bit longer, if that was the case. So
if we can go even further back to kind of like the beginning of this whole topic, the original owners pass. They have it in a trust.
Yes.
The children inherit the property.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Can you explain what their base will be? What is that exactly?
Okay. For example, the individuals pass away. The property is in the trust. Now they're both deceased. So now the property goes to the children. So whoever died last, that is, they're going to calculate the value of that, or depending on how that trust is set up. But let's say they're going to calculate the value of the sale. So let's say the property is worth $1 million. They passed away today. So today, the value of the property at $1 million is called the date of death value. So let's say they sell the property for $1 million, then there's zero tax, okay? Should they sell the property for $1.2 million, then they've only got to deal with a $200,000 gain.
They'll get taxed on that.
On the gain. Or unless, maybe they made improvements on that property too, they could write off, improvements at that point. So, and then the other thing that I know you're going to ask me about Proposition 19, because when you inherit a property now, what's changed about Proposition 19, okay, you can only inherit and maintain the property tax. Now I'm talking about property taxes, not income taxes. If it's my personal residence, for example, and I leave my personal residence to my one child, and it's going to be his personal residence, then he gets to keep my property taxes, the lower property taxes. But it must be my personal residence and it must be his personal residence.
Got it.
Okay? That law has changed. And probably a lot of you don't know, before you could give your children $1 million of assessed value, not market value. Assessed value is what you paid for it. For example, I have a lot of my properties have low assessment because I bought them a long time ago. So my kids would have been able to inherit those other properties at the lower assessment. Because of Proposition 19, and I don't think a lot of people were aware what they did, because they actually combined 55 and older law along with this law. So now your kids are going to lose that $1 million of assessed value. They will only get the $1 million of assessed value on the personal residence. Okay. And that's something I know that there's people, trying to repeal that because that kind of got snuck in. And I agree. I felt that they snuck it in and a lot of people were not aware of it. They thought they were only voting on the 55 and older being able to transfer your property taxes 3 times.
Yeah.
So if that comes up, I think that's something, a lot of us should be fighting for our kids to keep those taxes.
So there's a difference between the assessed value and market
value. Correct.
Right?
Assessed value is, for example, I have a property that I bought for $125,000 many years ago. Maybe my assessed value today is $300,000, but the property's worth $900,000. My kids would have been able to inherit that assessed value of $300,000, but only up to $1 million each. Okay, but now they don't get it because it's a rental property and they will be taxed on whatever the new property taxes are. So a lot of kids are not probably going to be able to hold on to the properties that they're inheriting today because they're not going to be able to afford the property taxes.
Yeah, because the assessed value is what your tax is based on. The tax amount that you pay.
What I paid for it. And then it goes up 2% a year.
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly. So let's just say, for example, and give an example. You have 4 properties that
Correct.
you purchased years ago.
Yes.
They are each assessed at $250,000.
Correct.
Right? So your children
would
have been able to inherit all 4 properties because if you add all 4 at $250,000, it would add up to $1 million. However, let's just say in today's market, each one of those properties is worth $1 million.
Okay, yeah. So they're going to go from a basis of $1 million for 4 properties to $4 million. Yeah. So you're looking at taxes of $12,000 a year to taxes of $40-some thousand a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's a big difference. So a lot of kids are not going to be able to keep the properties that their parents are going to be giving them because they're not going to be able to afford the tax.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it might be something that all of you might want to look into because I think that's a fight that we should put up to try to repeal that part of Proposition 19.
Yeah, and I know this is a lot of information and just kind of putting a lot of numbers out there and all that. But hopefully we're able to explain this where you can get some understanding. But obviously, feel free to comment down below or message us, obviously, if you have more questions.
Right. And we'll be able to answer them. And, and like I said, when we're done, we'll, give you information. You can DM us and, contact us so that we can go over some of this information. Because I think it's really, really important. I've seen too many families make mistakes by, they start deeding property back and forth and they didn't know. In fact, I just listed another property and her mom put her on title in 2013. So now she can't really outright sell it. Mom just died. Had she not done that, she would have been able to sell it and paid 0 tax. Now she's inheriting mom's taxes. So I'm going to have to do what's called a 1031 exchange. So I'm going to sell this property and we're going to transfer the money to Seattle to another property because she can't outright sell it unless she's willing to pay the taxes to Uncle Sam.
Got it.
Okay. So there's so many things and questions I know that you're going to have, and hopefully we can be here for you to answer those questions. Do not make mistakes. Do not start deeding back and forth without asking the right people.
Well, it's tempting because, if for a homeowner that doesn't know all this information, they're just thinking about how can they protect their asset.
Correct.
Right? And how can they then, make sure that their children are going to be able to then keep the property after they pass. So the initial instinct is, okay, let me add them on title so they're protected, right?
Yes, I think you're right. They're doing it just because they don't know.
Yeah, and they just want to find a way to protect their asset, and that's what it is. But there's
the right way to do it.
There's a right way to do it,
so that your kids don't have to pay income taxes. When they do pass and they want to sell the property.
So Marty, I have another question that just popped up to my mind. Let's just say a person inherits a property from their parents after they pass. It is held under a trust, as we're talking about. Let's just say that person who inherits the property decides to hold on to the house, to that property, and then 5 years down the road, they want to sell it.
That's fine. They can
And that's
sell
fine?
it.
Okay.
Remember, the only part that's taxable is going to be from the date of death to whatever the increase is when they.
So they'll just get paid taxes on whatever it increased from based on today's market value and whatever they sell it for.
Right.
The increase, that gain.
Yeah. And a lot of times I also, and depends if it's your personal residence or it's an investment property. I always have my clients talk to their CPA when they're selling their investment properties, because a lot of times I don't know what they've done with the investment, with the depreciation. And depreciation, you have to recapture when you sell, okay? I know this is probably a little bit terms that some people don't understand that are listening to us. But again, when you're selling rentals, I always recommend you talk to your CPA before you do that. He's going to do the calculations on the tax liability, whether you can sell it and you're willing to pay the tax, or you're going to do what's called a 1031 exchange and buy another property and take the money over there so you don't have to pay the additional taxes.
Yeah.
Okay?
There's ways to avoid that big
There's
tax
ways to
bill.
avoid taxes, yes.
Yeah. Just talk to the right people.
Yep. Don't make mistakes. Always plan, do your homework before you make a move.
Yeah. Yeah. So Marty, what about in a scenario where there is no will, there is no trust, right? And let's just say the original homeowners have the home. Their title is joint tenants or tenants in common, whatever the case is. They both pass, and who determines really who keeps the property if there is no will and there's no trust? They have children, for example.
Correct. So the property is going to be probated, and there's no trust. So it will go by the the chain of title to the children, and if one of the children is deceased, it'll go to their their children. So that's where the attorneys come in and do all that homework for you on the probate, getting it set up, and then choose who will be the administrator, like who's going to be in charge.
Yeah, but that also raises other questions.
It could be, and that could be a fight, and that's
a fight. Yeah,
yeah, and that's why you get a good attorney, and he's going to make sure that it's going to be as smooth as possible for you, so that it all gets handled properly.
Yeah, could you imagine?
I've seen it.
I've
been on a couple of cases.
What I just thought about, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you were raised. You're one of 11.
I'm one of 11 kids.
One of 11 kids, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Imagine in a family of 11 kids, and there is no will, there is no trust.
Oh yeah,
the fight of who keeps what, who keeps.
Yes, yeah, and I've been involved in a situation, not myself involved, but I've been a listing agent where there's been situations with the heirs of the property. So I've learned so much in my 46 years in the business. So that's why I tell you, don't start deeding property, and make sure that you put your property into a trust. If I can't tell you, a million times, I think that's so important. Make sure you put the property in a trust.
I just thought about something that I have this client that I'm helping out. Okay, so her husband purchased a home with his nephew a few years back, right? They're the original buyers of the house. A few years ago, maybe about 3 years ago, the husband added her on title. 2 years ago, they both passed away, the husband and the nephew. The wife is the only one that's alive now out of the three. Did she get hit with some kind of a tax bill if she...
No, because she's on title. But the question is, how did they hold title?
Joint tenants.
Then they're fine, because that's right of survivorship. So when you and I are joint tenants, if I die, you get the property. If you die, I get the property. Joint tenants would right of survivorship.
Even though she wasn't the original buyer?
It doesn't matter.
Let's just say she then turns around and tries to sell it?
Yeah, it's okay. She doesn't have to be the original buyer. She is the owner when she was put on.
Okay.
See, something to think about.
Yeah.
There's a lot to think about. So.
Something to think about. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot of moving parts to any movement that you try to do. And even though our intentions are good, as far as I'm thinking about as a homeowner, as just anybody out there who's just trying to protect their assets, just trying to protect all the hard work that they put into, their home and what
Yes.
they've built and their portfolio, all of that. But any small little move can really make a big impact in a negative way. That can cost a lot of money.
Yeah,
So,
the wrong move. Yes.
the wrong move, yeah.
And so many times, I do homework with my clients. Even, we go to sell a house. Okay, let's do the homework. Let's lay it all out. And, I try to calculate if there's going to be a tax liability and, if they need to talk to the CPA. And a couple of times, as you know, sometimes I go with them, to see their CPA. So I can make sure that, we're all on the same page and I'm understanding what the CPA has to say and that they're okay. If there's going to be a tax ramification, they're willing to pay it or they're not. So, and sometimes, I don't sell a house because I've done all my homework for them and they find out that, what, Marty, thank you so much, but I don't want to pay that kind of tax, so.
And if it doesn't make sense to the client, you're not going to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we're not CPAs. We're not giving tax advice.
That's right. We're not giving tax advice, but I know enough to know how I need to direct them to the attorneys or
people.
to the, or to their CPAs, tax person.
Yeah. Again, we're
and usually I like it because they usually find out I am right.
Yeah. It's funny. When you said that, I remembered one of my clients that, talked to you and everything like that. Mentioned something like, man, I'd hate to be on the other end of a argument with Marty. Of because we were dealing with this transaction and they got upset with, the other side. And, things happen, right? And we're trying to navigate through everything. And they're like, well, if they want to, if they want to go this direction, I got you and Marty on my side. He was like, I don't want to be on Marty's other end of the stick. So it was pretty funny.
I like that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, and we're talking about a lot of numbers and everything, and it could be probably a little overwhelming for a lot of people out there. But I think what's really important about today's topic is there's the right way to protect your money. And again, we've said it a few times, but can't say it enough. Just make sure you ask the right questions before you do anything and talk to the right people. Talk to somebody like us, like Marty, talk to an attorney, talk to a CPA, but talk to the right people and ask the right questions so that you can protect your assets, because it's
I've got 46 years in the business, 12,000 real estate transactions. So, you're only as good as the number of transactions that you've done, the people you've met, the problems you've had. And I tell people I'm a wealth of information. So even if you have a question, I tell them, just call me. Don't, make a decision until you call me. And I'm going to either help you with the question or I'm going to direct you to the right person that is going to, give you the correct answers. We're here for you, for sure.
I want to be like you when I grow up. Have all this wealth of knowledge.
46 years in the business and I still love it.
Yeah.
A lot.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Like I said before, you have so much passion for it and you just really care for your clients so much. So
yeah,
that's awesome to see. We're getting close to wrapping this up.
Yes. We're here to help you because we don't want you to make mistakes. So if you want to reach out to us, DM us.
Yeah. Or comment down below as well.
Yeah. And comment down below. Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway,
we'll respond. And also, if you have, any topics that you have questions on or anything like that, obviously also comment down below and we'll see when we can have a conversation about that.
Yeah, that would be great because we want to, talk about information that is of interest to, you. So definitely, if you have any other topics that you'd like for us to work on, we'd be happy to, bring that to you as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us and we'll see you again on the next one. Bye-bye.